I'm excited to talk to you because you've obviously seen Cohd like really uniquely from a lot of different vantage points, right? You were a participant in our program, you got to go through the full 10 months, and then obviously we partnered together to bring Cohd into your organization in a few other capacities. So I'm excited to get your POV and to like hear your thought process a little bit more. So I think maybe just to start, as you were before we actually partnered together, I'm curious what your decision-making process was, and how we arrived where we are today.
Yeah. As director of people, I was hearing a lot of feedback that people wanted growth. They wanted to know where they were going. They wanted to know how they were growing, and they wanted these opportunities. And as an organization, we just didn't have anything built in. I was basically a one-person department. Like, I didn't have a full L&D team. And so when I was asked to create a learning and development program and was given a pretty short timeline, I wanted to deliver it well, but it just wasn't my full-time job. So I knew I would need some support. So I wanted to be diligent. I looked online, went to where everyone else goes, started typing in leadership development programs. But what I found myself concerned with was these websites would look really great, but at the end of the day, they would spew a lot of information and then just ask for a really big dollar amount, but you just have no clue what the delivery will be and what is the outcome. What values are we actually teaching our people through this? Are we teaching in a way that I would be comfortable with if some manager actually had these skills and had to execute them with my team? I just really found myself not being able to trust a lot of these organizations because how could I really know what they would deliver? So you became a very obvious choice when I knew that I could trust the content. I knew, to your point, I had this really interesting perspective having worked through it, but I knew that we would be able to deliver that in a way that I felt very comfortable going to my C-level and saying, I trust this content to be within the hands of our people. So that's how we started working together.
Amazing. And what do you think, what do you think really distinguished kind of the Cohd curriculum and our approach to getting this together and getting it out the door compared to some of those other alternatives that you looked into?
Yeah, I think the other ones felt, even though they were small organizations, they still felt big boxy. It was okay, I'm just getting XYZ and I'm plugging it in. But with you, I knew that there was going to be a customization that I could work within. So it's I knew that there was 10 months of content, but my request was to actually create a 90-day program. So there was going to be this customization component that I just wasn't going to be able to get with anyone else, just by nature of our relationship and knowing what the content is. And I think I also could see beyond that step where I was going to be able to deliver it within the leadership program, but I also knew that there was going to be a way to integrate that with the entire team. Because if I'm teaching this content, I knew and I trusted that it was content that could eventually also be delivered in corporate workshops and actually become language that the entire organization uses. And I just knew that other leadership companies, I would just kind of plug it in and I would just have to work with that. But with you, I could foresee there being longevity with it and there actually being integration across the whole organization, because it wasn't going to just be shoved, here's the box, let's check it off. It was going to be, let's actually integrate it. Let's make this language that the entire company uses so that once people are learning it, they have actually a way to integrate it with their team, with their bosses. So for me, I could see kind of a twofold benefit in that sense. It was also really quick turnarounds. You were remarkably available and able to hop on whenever we could. And I think the other thing that I saw a really big piece of it was that I was able to see your content and also find ways to build in our company values integration. For us, that was really important. So it's I could take your content, but then compare it to how our values as a company showed up, which is something that I felt really resonated and just made that it was still your content, but it just made it relatable to our organization, our mission, our culture, in a way that I just don't think I could have been able to do with other programs. So I would have just kind of shipped my people off to them and said, good luck. But with you, I was able to integrate that and then obviously be doing the one to also deliver that content, which was really special too. So.
And I love working with like small and medium-sized companies for that specific reason. Is like there's so much thought that goes into the culture, and this shouldn't feel like it's this weird appendage to everything else that you guys are doing. It should feel like it is really integrated and it's thoughtful. And I think it was some of the folks from your program said, "Oh, it's so much easier to use the tools because I know they've been." For instance, we did the feedback workshops. Like, oh, I know everybody in the organization has been introduced to how to give feedback, and like we're familiar with it, so it makes it less daunting to use. And like those types of things, that's when it does become part of the culture. And obviously, Cohd stands for Cultures of Human Development. Like, I really am like excited when these tools, I think you can deliver it to one or two people and it can be highly impactful, but like I get really excited when it can become part of just the language of an organization and everyone kind of starts to lean in and use it. And that's where, from an ROI perspective, you just get more and more and more value out of these tools when everyone kind of understands what's going on and you've bought into the process. So it's exciting.
And to your point, like, and you say this all the time, like it's a practice, right? Like we're not going out to like learn it one week and then like go run bases the next and hopefully we get a home run. It's like we need to practice, like we need to have time. And if your teammates around you are the ones that you can practice with, even better, because then that means you're also solving like real-time business problems while using the tools. And so you get a benefit out of it that like you wouldn't be able to if you didn't have your teammates also understanding the same like language and like challenges that you're facing, but also knowing how to overcome them in a way that is going to benefit you in the long run. So
one thing that I have found kind of across like all the different cohorts that I work with is that there's a lot of places you can go if you're just trying to learn about leadership tools. You can watch videos, you can read books. There's certainly not a lack of resources out there if that's really all you're looking for. I think to your point around, oh, we're able to actually work on real business issues is where you kind of take these like models and these ideas and you take them off of paper and you actually start to apply them and use them and wrestle with them and like deal with the nuance of it. And that's where the actual learning happens, because now your managers are like using critical thinking skills and they're trying to figure out, oh, which model do I apply in different situations? And when you actually have to have those dialogues out loud and you're laughing and you're telling stories and you're relating to people, like that's what helps it actually become sticky, so that when your managers are done with the program, they've not just forgotten everything that they learned, because it really has been like applied. And to me, that's like a big differentiator in like our methodology and how we spend time from the leadership development perspective compared to a lot of other places that you can go, or you can like find a lot of content. You can find a lot of resources about the types of like fundamental tools that we teach, but it's just not going to be applied in the same way and it's not going to be as sticky.
Yeah. And I think it gives people in the organization an opportunity not only to like apply them, like when you do like the open mats at the opening, you also have a chance to be vulnerable, get to know your colleagues in a different way, because like you're being asked to show up differently and present something that might be challenging and like you do need to work through it, but then that allows your cohort to become your community of people that you can rely on. So like you actually can practice, you can do it in a safe space, but it does ask for that vulnerability, but it allows then this opportunity to get to know other people in your organization in a different way. So like as like their guide, like I could see that develop and like that rapport build in a different way than they would have if they were just showing up in like a weekly meeting and like getting through their checklist and like moving on. It's like, no, like this program asks you to show up in a different way, but it allows then you to grow, but you also then get to know other people in a different facet than you would have before too. So if you're doing it like within an organization, that's a benefit, but you also get the benefit where I was getting to know other people in an organization and getting to learn from them because of what they were going through. So it's like either way you do it, you're going to be learning because you're showing up in a new way. So,
and it's interesting when people hear about the program and they hear like, oh, we just spend like an hour and a half a week. I think sometimes people can feel like, oh, that's a lot of strain to put on my managers. It's a lot to ask of them, right? And I think it's an interesting, and when you're talking about open mat and bringing these problems and these things that people are dealing with to the table, it's important to reframe and have people understand that like this is not just an hour and a half where we're like shoveling content at people, right? It really is like, I almost see it as we're supporting your managers. We're giving them a place so that they can come and wrestle with the things that they're dealing with, and they're learning how to do it in a productive way. And so there's that initial instinct to think like, oh, I'm making my people's lives harder because I'm asking more from them. And when you realize like, this is support and this is coaching just as much as it is them learning things, it's just a different way to recognize what we're doing. Again, it's not, you're not going to class and reading books for, an hour and a half a week, and it really is just extra stuff to do. It's like, no, they're walking away feeling more excited, more confident, feel like they have next steps, feel like they have more tools. And so again, just like a different way, I think, to reframe the type of development work that we're doing.
Because I think even we had the same thought. I was nervous. I was nervous to block time off people's calendars because like the biggest thing people say is they don't have time. Mm-hmm. So, but what I actually found to be the best like compliment was once the program got going was that people would come to me and say like, I wish we had more time today, Kayla. Like I wanted to spend more time working through this and to try it out, to practice. And like, for me, like that was the biggest compliment because it meant that we were doing the right thing for them because like they wanted to be there. And so in hindsight, I wish I'd blocked off even more time on their calendars because they just didn't even know the benefit yet. But again, like I was even worried with like, oh my gosh, like they're going to be so mad at me. And it's like, no, like once you're in it, they want it. So it's worth it.
I love it.